This is the J.R. Hendrick Texan Gentleman, a podcast that deals with the early life of J.R. Hendrick, narrated format. Hello, everybody. Jimmy here. I'm with J.R. Hi, how's it going? We're going to crack back a little glass of J.R. root beer, ain't we, Jimmy? We sure are now. It's hard for me to really say any housekeeping notes. Not much going on in these neck of the woods. Jared, help me? Sure. Now, we may have like some special drinkable moments, and we'll let you know when we get to that. But there's one scene in this where we have President Clinton. We will not drink to that. I thought so too. Now, where do we go? Oh, man. Here it is, May 5th. Okay, so we began. It's Jim and Betsy's last day in Raleigh. Interesting. 5:30 a.m. Central. J.R. is swimming at the Sibley to forget his troubles, even though he was no longer to be an official part of the team. Coach said that he could always come to the Sibley and swim as an honorary and later as an alumni. At 7 a.m. Central, J.R. grabs breakfast at the Sneed snack bar and goes back into his dorm room. He's in the living room. Kevin McDonald, he's having a great protein bar. And he was always trying to keep his figure up. And JR says healthy stuff again for breakfast. Don't you live a little? And Kevin, he says, I know I'm going to law school with you, Junior. But when I get out, I want to get an FBI or something like that, get my figure up. Now, you said Jennifer's dad called, and Jared's like, I don't want to talk to Jennifer. And I don't even want to talk about Jennifer right now. And since Kevin says, well, okay then, I have some news. I need a place to bunk with between, in this summer, I'm going to be interning with the Red Scouts of America. Now, that's an multiverse. I actually tried to form a neighborhood organization when I was a kid called the Red Scouts. And, of course, some of the participants had to be girls in the neighborhood. And, of course, the girls took over, and the club folded. Now, of course, I'm not saying anything sexist, because I got mad with what my brother said next. He said, the problem is, James, you being such a doofus and all, that you should have had the club become boys. Oh, JR, this organization was started in 1929, shortly before the Great Depression. It was a chance for young boys and even young girls to make a difference. back in the 80s, it was the anti-drug solution. And I remember Granddad gave me the money to start my own club at the ranch at my sister's clubhouse. Unfortunately, my sister ran us out, and my brother Kyle says that's what I get for having girls in the club. Nevertheless, I still got the literature, and more people are turning towards Red Scouts as a conservative alternative. In 1989, it became a club for kids and adults. So when I was in Austin and D.C., one time I wasn't lobbying for Daddy, I was involved in club meetings. Now, JR turns around towards Kevin and says, now you know that Mama wants you to come stay with us. I think, she thinks you and Amy Kathleen get a good match. You know, he wants her to marry you instead of Greg. And Kevin kind of says, well, keep it in the family, huh? Your father is not going to like that, especially while he's on his power games in BC, man. A man can be such an ass. When are you leaving to go home for your internship? My test is at 10:30 Tuesday morning. So I'll be Dallas that night, probably by 9. Damn good thing you won't see my daddy hit the ceiling when he gets here next Wednesday afternoon. And Kevin's like, well, what's he mad over now? And he says, he can get mad at anything. Something tells me Mama's gonna get tired of it soon. Okay, so it's 8 a.m. in Arlington, Virginia, and Diane and Amy Kathleen walk out in front of UVA Oncology, where Grandma Elizabeth is having a final session of chemotherapy for a while. About 10 days. Doctors are saying it's a matter of 6 months before Grandma Swain passes away. Amy Kathleen is she's tearful. She's despondent. And Diane says, look, we'll fly to El Paso and get a second opinion. They have a doctor with a machine that does photodynamic therapy. Now, meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., Elizabeth Marie has her final in advanced macroeconomic theory. But, of course, Frank wants to hang out with him. But she reminds him that, he also has finals and they need to buck up. So, he's mad. So, he's mad because Elizabeth once again won't pay him any money to get Leno to take him to school. So he storms out. Jared, I will find out 10 years later Uh, Frank was one of them. Fake it till you make it type of dudes. And Uncle Carl said that Daddy said when he found out about through a lot of listening to me, he said that he had more hard feelings for somebody like that. So Elizabeth Marie, she's not sure she's going to get married again. She still works. She works for some libertarian think tank in Madison. 8:05 a.m. Central. Brent and Dave Stratton emerged from their final and returned to the dorm with Southern-made donuts. Woo, let me tell you something. They're located in Odessa, Texas, El Paso. They need to have one in Lubbock. That's just all. I know they got Krispy Kreme, but nothing beats it at that place, okay? So, but it's made available at Smith Hall. So JR had invited him to have breakfast at the snack bar, but Brent wanted donuts. So Dave Stratton says he had a final at 10:30 this morning with Dr. Kinghorn, legislative process. Okay, so it's 1 p.m. Central. JR had finished his government affairs management final exam around 11. He went to the Spirit Club for lunch, and now he was back in his dorm. And it was easy to see that Kevin McDonald was having a peanut butter sandwich. So his phone rings, and it's Amy Kathleen. And Jared says, "Well, hello, cousin. How are you?" And Amy Kathleen's talking about how much she misses him and everything. Of course, I think she's covering because she don't want JR to know. And JR's like, "Hey, cousin, what's wrong? I miss you too." Amy Kathleen's ducking again. It's nothing serious. Please don't tell me it's you and Greg, JR's like. And she says, "No, it's nothing like that. It's just, we're all worried about Grandma." Now, listen, cousin, there's some things I don't, and Jared's like, "No, listen, cousin, there's some things I don't need to know. Last night I got a call from my ex-girlfriend. Her father, she wants to talk to me, but I ain't answered my phone for her at all." And so, this is interesting, JR. What's the context? She was covering up, everybody was covering up, but I knew. 1:15 p.m. Central. At the Texas Tech Club, Dr. Kinghorn is having lunch with Allison. JR is in his final right now, Dr. Kinghorn says. But there's just this one thing I have to understand. Brent Clarks told me 2 days ago about his candidacy for student senate. You managed his campaign Do you know something? And Allison's being kind of coy. She's like, now, Dr. Kinghorn, you should know that public affairs specialists keep their conversations privileged, Allison said. Why are you so interested in helping Jara? And Kinghorn's like, well, he's more valuable in serving the state than dealing with his father. I really don't want him working with his father right now. And Allison, she gets those, if you excuse me, Dr. Kinghorn, I got those panels. Now, I want you to picture something. Dr. Kinghorn and Mindy Crider. Jara, who's Mindy Crider? Mindy Crider, and that's her maiden name. That is the mother. Mindy, that is the original married name for Karen's mother. You got Dr. Kinghorn, the conservative, dating Mindy Crider. You got a deadly combination. That indeed you do. No doubt, Allison was studying with Chuck. He also specialized in corporate public affairs. Now, it's 3 p.m. Eastern. Back at the Hendrick Mansion in D.C., Sarge is on the phone with Claude and Claude's business associate, Calvin Duke of Durant, Oklahoma. Fred walks in and says, look, I'm due at the Senate chamber, okay? Forever excuses herself, which is weird. 5 p.m. Eastern. In Raleigh, Jim and Betsy have their final dinner in Raleigh. A hamburger dinner in the home of the Mr. and Mrs. Bernard Britley. So it's 7 p.m. Eastern. At the convention center, Jim is doing one of the big evening speeches. Now, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, Christine comes home from dinner with Jennifer, Heather, finally Amy, Kathleen in the Dream Team lounge sitting in the dark. Amy, now really, what's wrong? And Amy Kathleen's like, Christine, Grandma is in El Paso. Doctors here, they want to break from chemotherapy. Mom wants her to have a second opinion. So Christine does this thing. Oh my God, we got to ring the bell about this because a previous episode in the fall. Let's ring the bell. You are about to get schooled. Because she says, she shows a photo of Luke, her ex-boyfriend, from last fall. Tammy Affling that he wants. That he made the honor society at the boarding school, wants to come visit. And Amy Kathleen's like, well, I got finals to study for. Walks away. Now it's I guess this is 5 and 6. Yes, it is. Let me make sure. Well, during the day also, Elizabeth gets Marie gets a call from Frank. basically saying goodbye. And Betsy, this all happens on the 6th. Let's go ahead and cover the 7th and 8th, okay? So, here's the update. JR, give the update. Well, Charlie had been giving me problems. And so Uncle Carl sent me to spend the night with Grandma on the 6th, and she took me to church at the Holy Spirit Club. Meanwhile, Elizabeth Marie invited Frank to her suite in the mansion to confront him for his new date. she dumps him. That's pretty obvious. Yeah, Frank. What can I say? You's a loser. You get the bell. You get schooled. Because guess what? You don't date or plan to marry a user loser. Okay? So it's now the 7th. Grandma Hendrick and JR went out to eat at Olive Garden. In the merging, they could see a car service pull up. And exiting out, a woman that JR knows. And JR's like, oh my God, Karen. Oh, Karen, why? What did you hear? And she said, saving your butt from Charlie Nation, JR. Yeah, Kevin McDonald told me, and he also told me that Dave Smith wants to take you to breakfast before he has his final at 7:30 tomorrow morning. Grandma's taking me back. And so Grandma Mary speaks up. She says, well, son, actually, my arthritis is pretty bad, darling. I just think you just need to go on home with a girl. So it's 9 p. It's 9 p.m. Christine picks up the phone, calls JR. And JR's like, okay, what is, she's telling him about some papers Brent Clark said about his platform in the Senate. And he's like, what kind of papers? Really, what kind of evidence does Mr. Clark give you concerning my platform? And says, and Christine answers with her usual thing, JR, you're such a dork. And I would give her the bail, but she's JR's sister. And JR said, what did he send you? And Christine says, well, why don't you come to D.C. and make me? And JR says, crazy that you won't tell your own brother what Brent put on my platforms for the Student Senate. What the hell kind of loyalty is that, Christine? And she gives this pat answer, hey, what about the rest of the family, JR? Mother's Day, college coming up, And JR says, and hollyhocks and beauty, Christine, honey. You've been away from Mom and Daddy for too long. And she says, okay then, JR. Who helped you with that platform? And JR's like, look, I had a number of girls and guys, some buddies, not just Brent who helped me with this dang thing. And Christine says, well, I've been working so closely with Brent then. And JR's like, because you didn't want to be on uh, because he didn't want to be on the student senate anymore. He wanted me. And Christine says, baby-faced, pimply-faced dork JR. Daddy's still pissed at you, and you know why. And JR says, and I'm the second one of the mama's family that's actually gone to college. And so Christine says, like, I don't want to. It's always a contest between you and Kyle. Who's the head? Who's the head of the family? I tell you what, I feel like I'm more in line of taking care of and being in charge of everything that gets built from Daddy. And Jared's like, go ahead, Christine, go ahead. Hey, he knows he can't win an argument with Christine because Christine is so much like her father, like Jared. So 4:30 a.m. Eastern. So Jim wakes up and goes to the kitchen. Harold, the night servant, is making some coffee. Today he was just going to be working on some backgrounders and possibly on the Andrew House show. So it's 4 a.m. Central. He's dressing and getting ready. Now it's 4:30 a.m. Central. Now, Kentucky Bell. This is a restaurant that the Grand Theft Auto games? Only I combined Kentucky Fried Chicken and Taco Bell and made it a 24-hour fast food restaurant. So Dave Smith is having one final breakfast with JR. Just the two of them. I'm going to miss you. And Dave says, you'll see me around. Hey, buddy, don't take it to heart with your father, with what your father says. You're the better man. And JR says, I know no matter what, I'm going to let him down. Especially about the girls that I date. And Dave's like, I know Miss Bowers would be someone that would have stood up to your family. But she wounded you and went off to Europe in the spring. And JR says, maybe Karen Crowder will wear my ring. And Dave's like, and let me tell you something. I believe it was your dad that chased you towards Charlie Nation. That clown. By trying to interfere in your social life. He loves and Jared's like, he loves my brother over me. Kyle got to go on longer and more trips. Got to hang out with friends and prep school. I just had to do Daddy's bidding. And Dave says, but your granddad had a hand in raising you. Don't forget that. You wouldn't have studied public affairs if it wasn't for him. And Jared's like, let's not forget Mama. As Daddy was away carousing around in Nashville, Mama was teaching me about history, politics, anything. I wanted to know I wanted to not be between grandma, mama, and granddad. Because of them, I became who I am today. And Dave says, don't get too discouraged. Don't get too warm by your dad. A genie in a lamp who gives you 3 wishes when you curse him. That's pretty obvious. Now, it's 8:15 in the morning. Jim arrives at the office and he gives his secretary notice, put him on the Andrew House show. And he goes to his Dell laptop, which Betsy got him. His desktop, rather. And he's tapping in the databases and everything, getting ready for Phil Later's hearing he's got at 9 o'clock in the morning. And Jim's thinking to himself, nitwit makes my skin crawl. Now, it's 8 a.m., and JR is studying at the Smith library. He's studying for his strategic communication management course. Now it's 8 a.m. Mountain, and this is kind of a heartwarming scene, but a sad. An orderly takes Grandma Elizabeth by stretcher into the front of the dynamic therapy room. Right this way, Mrs. Swain. And Diane, she goes to a payphone and calls her husband. Tell me, it breaks my heart what they have to do. Jeremy, it breaks my heart what they have to do to your mother in there. And Tom says, Mama's tough. I mean, the years that she had to deal with Daddy, the Swain men mostly became gentlemen because all of the abuse Nani put them through. Granddad said that he would never leave her until the day she died or he died, and she went first. So it's 10:20 a.m. Eastern. No, 12:20 p.m. Eastern. After a swim, Jim goes into the dining room for some jalapeno, bean, and beef guacamole burritos. Amy Kathleen said that Sarge found Elizabeth Marie, and she's crying outside in the mansion. And she's in her final exams, and plus, but outside, it's the house. She's crying, and she says, "I love him, Sarge. I love him." And Sarge says, "Oh, honey, he was at the lowest, a bottom feeder, someone looking for a sugar mama." And Jim's like, "Oh, what's going on with Elizabeth Marie?" And Betsy says, "Well, Frank told her that he was seeing another girl." And Jim said, "Well, I told her he was a second-rate, shoddy piece of crap." So there you go. 12 p.m. Central. JR has lunch with Dave, Brent, and... Okay, he has lunch with Brent and Dave at the Hood and Hank Steakhouse. Okay, this is going to be a staple place where Jared goes. This was an upscale steakhouse. The establishment was created in November 1994 in Lubbock by Hudson Kidd and Hank Davids. This is not a real one. This is alternate universe. Catering to rich Texas Tech students and alumni. Branches were developed in that year, Austin in 1997, Arlington and Odessa in 1999, Midland in 95. So, Dave orders a start someone say, he says, a steakhouse? And JR, he orders, what'd you order that day? Oh, it was easy. It was Daddy always said it was a choice between a T-bone and sirloin, and I would me a T-bone. No, I would me a sirloin. I remember now. And he says, well, you know, I'll pay it forth. It's a gift graduating. Red Raider. We're going to miss you around here, Dave. And Brent said, let's see. I have one final on Friday. I had one final on Friday, 2 on Saturday, and I have one more final tomorrow. And so, and Gerald says, but you're not leaving for Fort Worth until Friday. And Brent says, well, that's when they have my apartment ready. So now it's 1:30 p.m. Eastern, and Jim is on the Andrew House Show, both praising and criticizing Clinton. Now it's 12 p.m. Mountain, and Diane picks up Grandma Elizabeth. She's having stomach pains, so giving the tonic. 1 p.m. JR is studying at the Smith Hall Library when he gets a call on his cell phone, and it's Dr. Harmon. And he says, you saying yourself safe? He says, I know I had to call you out 2 weeks ago because, well, quite frankly, such is the nature of debate and public affairs. So long, JR, and take care, my friend. JR, now when Harmon said, my friend, I could not help but notice the irony that he and I would debate the next spring in his advocacy and policy studies. And I was calling out, and I would call him out again. However, I would have the benefits of the education that I had from my daddy and others during my summer internship to deal with them. But the biggest problem was 2 years later. What was 1 year, a year and a half later, when he would introduce me to a law professor who would wreak havoc on my life and my family's life, Mark Christopher. So it's now 2 p.m. Eastern. Amy Kathleen, she comes home and she's studying down the movie theater. She had one final on Friday, two finals today, and one more final on May 11th. Relieved that her summer term is starting with the end of her freshman year. She's looking forward to JR and Kyle and most of the family coming all together. Jim and Betsy and Grandma Elizabeth. And the good thing was Grandma Elizabeth would be coming back. Okay, so it's 2 p.m. Central. Brent returns to his dorm room and talks briefly with his roommate when a knock comes to the door. And it's Jessie, his girlfriend. And she says, I've had two finals on Friday, and I also had one tomorrow and one on Wednesday. And then Wednesday afternoon, I take off to stay either with my brother in Rosebud or Dad in Parker. And so Brent's like, oh, why can't you just stay with your mother in Fort Worth, your mother in Mansfield? And she says, my little sister Catherine is there, and she likes to rule the roost there. Besides, my father is the one getting my apartment in Fort Worth. And Brent's like, all right. Once or twice a week, we'll try to get together. Come on Friday. And she says, and Jesse's like, well, why can't you wait till Friday to leave? And Brent's like, hey, look, this past week I had one final on Friday, two on Saturday, and we got two more on Friday. I got two more on Friday. I can't leave until 4 around Friday evening. And she says, all right, Saturday evening at 7, Mom has purchased 13 tickets to Mercy Me. You're in Irving, you're going. So it's 4:05 p.m. Eastern. Christine arrives home from school. She goes straight to the limited homework, and she's going to be going back to the House chamber tonight to talk to Congressman Diane Johnson from Chicago and Congressman Dan Pierce from Hot Springs. Now, Johnson was a conservative Democrat, and Pierce was an arch conservative Republican. So, once again, welfare reform. Okay, so it's 4 p.m. Central. Jared turns his dorm room when there's a knock on the door. And it's a character we haven't introduced in a while. Calvin Broderson. You're going to hear from him intermittently through the whole thing. And he says, I got something for you. I got some spring pizza and some cinnamon sticks. Now this summer, while we're on internship, I want you to meet this guy who's studying at Regent University. We've been pen pals for the past couple of years. His name is Cameron Blue. But he tells me everybody back in Aurora calls him Wiz. He studied Regent for a year, And then he's going to be going full-time to UT Austin School of Law after he had received his degree this past December. No, actually, December 1993 from UC Boulder. He won first in the 300 freestyle in the 1992 Summer Olympics. He's just like us. And Gerald said, have you seen Allison Hall around campus? Gerald asked. Oh, no. Please don't tell me you're falling for her. I saw her Saturday walking arm in arm from Memorial Circle with Chuck. And Gerald said, last ties, Jennifer. Matters. Like I care. Tomorrow, I'm going to carry on Karen Crowder. She broke up with her boyfriend. And Calvin says, heads up. I want you to have some guard in case she starts getting impatient again. So it's 8 p.m. Eastern, and the Hendrick Dream Team is in a meeting, and Dave Rosenberg is in. He's all nervous. He's like, hey, we got some good news. CBMC is willing to settle at the base of $40,000. And Jim's mad. He's like, I'll hold it just a damn minute. That's a pittance compared to what what my family deserves. Now, if it's something like $4 million, we can settle. And now, David, you can't handle this. I'll call Calvin Harlan back home. He can handle this. And now here's the thing. Michael Pierce says, hey, y'all, Jim, Dave, calm down. Dave, you have to stop half-hearted on this case. I need you to go ahead and just tell them that we won't settle it unless we get $4 million. Okay, so it's 8 p.m. Central. JR, Dave, Kevin, and Calvin are sitting eating some more pizza at the library for dinner, taking a good study break. He's like, JR, I think you got some lucky breaks, You won the student tent on the capitalist platform, and then what do you know? Most of his friends get interns at D.C. I'm glad, but I'll just take my internship at Fort Worth, Brent says. Okay, all right. Brent is being stupid. Ring the bell. Yeah. He gets schooled. He's about to get schooled. Here's JR. I was sad until I found out that Kevin and Calvin were going to be in D.C. Plus, I get to go back with my old girlfriend, Karen, for old time's sake. And Dave says, your dad's going to choke on that. And Kevin, he's like, no. We'll just wait till JR's out of the house. And I'll slip into the office or wherever old man Hendrick is and give him a talk. And JR's like, old man is right. He's probably going to be moving around with power games, being mischievous. Wow. Kevin being slippery. Root beer at noon on Tuesday. We're going to slip out. Okay, now we go to the last day, May 9th. This is where things start to come to a head. 1 a.m. Mountain. Elizabeth wakes up screaming with abdominal pain. Diane goes downstairs to get her tonic and medicine. Now it's 5:15 a.m. Eastern. And Betsy wakes up and goes to the front lounge to have some coffee. Yesterday she had tea with Hillary Bush. And today, she had accepted an invitation to have tea with Amanda Fitzwilliams. Now, Hillary Bush, as we know, she is the wife of Constance P. Bush, distant cousin to President George H.W. Bush. And Amanda Fitzwilliams is the wife of a major commentator. All right. So now she is longing for JR's return, although she knows that within 2 days of his arrival, her old love, John Dustin, would be arriving in Washington, D.C. This will cause no small stir. Now, 5 a.m. Central, JR, Dave, and Kevin wakes up. Along with Calvin brings in some cinnamon rolls for most of it. Because, of course, Kevin, trying to keep his figure up, he gets some cottage cheese and cherries from the vendor outside the student union. And Calvin says, I say we burn the midnight oil. And Dave says, yeah, I know. But you were the first one to conk out at 8:30. Have any of you seen Brent milling around campus? I know that's a funny question. I know that's funny. Yeah, I forgot. Probably going to work or study at Smith Hall. First of all, JR, that pizza ate. Okay, Kevin says this. First of all, JR, that pizza you ate last night must have made you imagine things. Because I tell you, it's based on some of the talking that you did in your sleep. And second of all, what should it matter to you about it? Brent, this semester's almost over. Okay. Now it's 5:30 p.m. and Jagar is swimming in the Sibley pool when Charlie approaches him poolside. Dun, 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 and the plot thickens. And Charlie's like, no, don't kick me out. I just want to talk and be friends, Charlie said. And JR's like, I don't trust you because you mess with my pipe. Not to mention the whacking I took on my knee when you insisted on walking back to my dorm instead of taking the bus. And Charlie, he's like, don't be a wuss. I mean, sorry for your hard time, but you'll be walking from Holden Hall anyway. Oh my gosh, Charlie. And then Gerald's like, come to my room around 3. You know, this ain't the time or the place. Oh, Gerald, don't let him back in. Don't let him back in. Okay, both Charlie and Gerald get the bell. About to get schooled. This is where it's gonna hurt. Okay, so now we are at 9 a.m. Eastern, and it's in the Oval Office. President Clinton is meeting one of Hendrick's former employees, Alexandria Irons. Now, here's the thing. He's using her to spy on him. And he said, hey, Pink slept you. And she says, well, he said pack my desk and be out by the 19th. And so, with some small talk, Clinton pours both of them some bourbon, and they have a talk. And he's like, he's pouring on the charm. So sad to see some cute number go. However, I should know. My deputy chief of staff needs a little confidential assistant. It's only a title. It's going to be used so you can continue to spy on Hendrick on my behalf. And she says, you never change, and that's okay. I had it worse than I had it with him. I had it worse with him. And he says, give me a year and a half, honey. And he's out. He's out the door. I'm not going to let him hang around, just sit there and criticize me. And she says, I heard Hillary. It has been told that Hillary is mad at you for having first put him there in the first place. And Clinton says, well, she's gone on a 3-day tour, and Chelsea's staying with friends, so like I care. I nominated him to court favor with conservatives. But with him, I can't win. And she says, let's crush him together. And you know that this is the time that they closed. And she said, I heard all over town that his wife's old flame is taking a stopover in D.C. And Clinton says, juicy, but not what I wanted. I want the father to be united with his son. But no, this is going to make things worse. Find out they were saying you can, and report back to me on the 17th. And so it's 9:30 a.m. Eastern, and Jim is meeting with various congressmen. He's got support from Larry Combest, congressman from Texas. And he approaches Congressman Terry Clay from Missouri. And this dude says, well, I'm not going to say yay or nay to you. And so this congressman just keeps... Jim supported him in 94. And this dude keeps disappointing him. And let's drink to that because, well, he needs some disappointment. So he's out there in Statuary Hall, and he runs into this congresswoman who says she will support welfare reform. And then, what does he do? What does he do? He goes before the cameras for a press conference. A press conference. Now, 9 a.m. Central. Emerging from his final exam in constitutional law at West Hall, J.R. is feeling pretty triumphant. But then he sees Allison walking hand in hand with Chuck by the fountain. For a moment, he tears up. Then he gets the text from Karen Kreider saying that she is done with the final. He texts her saying that they'll have lunch sometime today at 1. So that's a drinkable moment right there. And good thing this isn't alcohol. Okay, 9:30 a.m. Central. Allison goes to see Dr. Kinghorn in his office. She asked Chuck to go to the library to get ready for his 10:30 final. And Kinghorn says, "Now, Allison, let's make this quick because I got a 10:30 final to administer." And she says, "Did you send that letter of recommendation for my job?" And he said, "I did indeed. I also sent your academic portfolio. Very impressive. Let me ask you something. Would this also have to do with J.R. Hendrick?" And she said, "You still want him to run for Congress?" And he says, "I've been talking to him for this whole academic year. He says he wants to, but his dad says no." But he says he definitely wants to. But I think it's the point that he really don't care whether his dad says no. So it's 1 p.m. Eastern. And Jim comes home to a fried chicken lunch and sits down having lunch with Christine and Betsy. And Christine, she's like, "Mom, I swear if John comes at the same time that Kyle comes, JR and I are going to be pissed." And Christine says, "Now, look, you can't," and Betsy's like, "You can't blame me if he comes." I mean, Christine, when was the last time he saw Kyle? I mean, he's his son, Betsy says. And Jim, he stands up and he says, Now just hold on. That junk ain't staying in my house. And Christine says, he's daddy's first son first. Christine said, this family deserves to give some loyalty to daddy. Now, JR, he says, my how things will change for the next few days. Mama's ex-husband arriving in D.C. and squabbling in the family. And because of that, I spend a lot of time with my friends. And work on my in D.C. and work on my internship throughout the whole summer. Okay, so it's 1 p.m. Central. JR is having barbecue chicken lunch with Karen. And she says, I'm going to stay with Grandma tonight. You know the address. Mom and Hector are packing up my my furniture and driving it to DC. Now, I'll tell you something. Once again, be interested to see Dr. Kinghorn getting into a debate with Mindy Crider. It would be. Now, JR says, Carmen is packing my things. Daddy sent me an email. Mike Fields is coming to keep an eye on me for tonight. I guess tomorrow I head back to D.C. myself, Jared said. Let me tell you something, JR. Bolt when your daddy threatens you, Karen says. It's kind of like she said. She said it twice. Bolt when your daddy threatens you. Bolt when your daddy threatens you. So now it's 3 p.m. Central. And JR, you tell it the way you can do. I'm sitting in the dorm room after my 2 finals, moping the dust of Dave Smith, who had left for Big Spring shortly after noon. When a loud knock comes to the door, and it's Charlie. And Charlie says, and Charlie says, you know, JR lets him in. And Charlie is pointing to his knee, says, let me see. And Kevin says, well, don't you even think about it, Charlie. I removed the bandage. He's fine. Oh, look at that gnarly scar. Ooh. The girl's going to be all over you. And Mike Fields walks into the dorm area. He says, Kay, Charlie, Kay, you know what's good for you, Charlie? Beat it. just like the Michael Jackson song. Beat it. Just beat it. These seems to keep saving my butt. Or somebody always does. And Mike Fields says, your dad's already irritated. That's because you let this guy in again. And Kevin wanted to say something, and Charlie's like, no. I mean, Jared's gesture is kind of like, no, don't even try it. So it's 5 p.m., and the Hendrick family that is in Lubbock takes JR once again to the Olive Garden for dinner. And Aunt Donna says, I bet you are relieved to have this semester over. And JR says, yes, ma'am. The fact of Charlie Nation bugging me and debates from Dr. Harmon put me in a sour mood. And so Carl says, you know what? Your daddy is going to be sending us by private jet to D.C. And Carl says, this weekend, I'll make it. I'll bring you some Taco Bell. You know, your favorites. And they're the same thing as mine, right, JR? 3 combination burritos plain. And, well, I gotta say, it chili was pretty good. Mine is the tomatoes. You're pretty good. Okay, so, and Grandma Mary speaks up, and she says, your daddy used to give you Starburst when you was a kid to make up the times when he was mean to you. And Jared's like, I swear, if he jumps on me 3 to 14 million times, I'm going to read him the riot act. And Max says, Uncle Jim won't scare me this time. And Aunt Donna's like, let's just pray that this doesn't happen. And Carl's like, well, if it goes there, don't worry about it. I'll deal with him. He don't scare me anymore. So it's 9 p.m. And Charlie says, entering the dorm, I laid down in my chair bed. I noticed Carmen to pack my suitcases, laid down for my last semester that night. I give this episode three root beers and three cinnamon rolls. Jared. 3 root beers and a trip to Washington, D.C. Hope you enjoy listening to the J.R. Hendrick Texan Gentleman. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, become a part of the adventure. This is the James Hendrick Empowerment Network saying until next time, get ready for the rest of the story. It's going to be a lot bumpier from here.